Within the next 5 years, every single person watching this will arrive at the same moment of truth. You will look at your life and say one of two sentences. Either, this biblical lesson changed everything about who I became, or, nothing changed at all. I am still exactly where I was. Most people believe that difference will be decided by luck, a big opportunity, the right investment, or a miracle breakthrough. But what if the Bible reveals something far more uncomfortable? What if the next 5 years of your life are not determined by what happens to you, but by one quiet decision you keep postponing every single day? The Bible is brutally honest about something most people desperately try to avoid. Your future is not shaped by rare, dramatic moments, but by small decisions repeated when no one is watching. Within 5 years, time will have passed no matter what you do. That part is guaranteed. The only variable is whether those years will be built intentionally or wasted unconsciously. Many people blame their lack of progress on external factors. They point to the economy, inflation, low salaries, missed opportunities, or bad timing. Yet Scripture consistently points the finger somewhere far closer to home. It teaches that destiny is not hijacked by circumstances, but slowly constructed by stewardship. The defining question is not whether you are talented, lucky, or motivated. The real question is whether you are a good steward of what God has already placed in your hands, especially your time. Every day, God entrusts you with the same currency He gives to everyone else. 24 hours. No one receives more. No one receives less. The difference between those who move forward and those who remain stuck is not intelligence or privilege. It is what they do with that trust. Each time you say, "I will start tomorrow," something subtle but dangerous happens. You are not simply delaying growth. According to biblical principle, you are planting seeds for a future you do not actually want to harvest. Scripture states clearly that faithfulness in small things determines faithfulness in greater things. Negligence in small things does the same. Your financial future, your spiritual maturity, your family stability are not built by occasional bursts of effort. They are formed by daily choices made quietly, often invisibly, before God. When you silence the alarm to gain a few more minutes of comfort, it feels harmless. But the Bible invites us to see deeper. Those minutes are never free. They are purchased with stagnation. Comfort is exchanged for discipline. Immediate pleasure replaces long-term purpose. And this trade, repeated over years, quietly shapes an entire life. Scripture does not call that blessing. It calls it negligence. Many people desire prosperity, peace, and stability, yet resist the very discipline that produces them. Proverbs is blunt. The plans of the diligent lead to abundance, but haste and avoidance lead only to lack. This is where discomfort begins, because the Bible removes every illusion. God does not bless improvisation. He blesses sustained obedience. The people you admire, those who seem to advance while others remain stuck, are not operating in a different spiritual universe. They do not possess extra hours in their day. They simply understood an ancient truth that most ignore. Time is a seed. Whatever you consistently sow into it, you will eventually reap. One of the greatest misconceptions people carry is the belief that change begins with feeling ready. The Bible never supports that idea. Scripture consistently teaches that transformation begins with obedience, not emotion. Many people wait to feel motivated before they act. Yet biblical wisdom reveals that discipline must come first, and feelings follow later. This is why so many remain trapped in the same financial, spiritual, and emotional cycles year after year. They are not lacking desire. They are lacking stewardship. God has never built character through comfort. He forms it through consistent discipline. When you postpone responsibility, you are not simply waiting for a better moment. You are training your mind to associate growth with convenience. Over time, that association becomes a prison. The Bible warns that a believer does not live by impulses, but by principles. Principles operate whether you feel inspired or not. They function in silence, in routine, in moments that receive no applause. This explains why two people can hear the same teaching, read the same scripture, and pray the same prayers, yet experience radically different outcomes 5 years later. One understands that obedience must cost something. The other treats growth as an optional activity reserved for spare time. Scripture shows us that God honors sacrifice, not intentions. Delayed discipline always produces delayed results. Avoided discipline produces none at all. Look closely at those who advance steadily in life. They do not wake up early because they enjoy suffering. They do not plan, pray, or study out of religious fantasy. They do it because they grasped a sobering truth. Obedience to God is not practiced when life is convenient, but when it demands effort. They understood that the most valuable growth happens when the world is quiet and distractions are absent. While many tell themselves they will change later, time continues moving forward without mercy. Years pass while intentions remain unfulfilled, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, identity begins to harden. The person who delays becomes the person who delays. The person who avoids structure becomes the person who resists responsibility. This is why Scripture repeatedly links discipline with blessing and negligence with loss. Not because God is harsh, but because He is consistent. Within 5 years, the gap created by daily discipline will look enormous. It will appear as peace versus stress, stability versus chaos, clarity versus confusion. The difference will not be traced back to a single dramatic decision, but to thousands of small acts of obedience that most people considered insignificant. There is a reason Scripture places such deep importance on what comes first. From the first fruits of the harvest to the firstborn of the flock, God has always worked through a principle that most people ignore when it comes to time. The first is not just symbolic, it is strategic. What you offer first determines what follows. Yet when it comes to daily life, many people give God, their purpose, and their growth only what is left over after exhaustion has already taken its toll. The first hour of the day is not an ordinary hour. It is the cleanest mental state you will experience. Before noise, before pressure, before comparison, before the chaos of the world enters your mind, there is a brief window of clarity. In that window, your spirit is more sensitive, your thoughts are sharper, and your discipline is easiest to exercise. This is not about being a morning person. It is about being a responsible steward before God. Most people unknowingly surrender this hour to distraction. They give their most focused moments to social media, entertainment, news, and other people's priorities. Then they wonder why the rest of the day feels heavy, rushed, and unproductive. Biblical wisdom exposes this pattern without mercy. When you honor God with what is first, He blesses what comes after. But when you give Him only what remains, life itself begins to operate on leftovers. Within 5 years, the results of this choice become impossible to hide. Two individuals can share the same beliefs, attend the same church, and pray the same prayers. Yet one steadily advances, while the other feels permanently tired and behind. The difference is not intensity, it is consistency in honoring the first. The Bible teaches that first fruits activate alignment. When your first hour is ordered, your decisions throughout the day become clearer. When it is wasted, disorder multiplies. This is why God's principle of first fruits extends beyond finances into time itself. Your brain is more receptive. Your mind absorbs deeper. What you place into it during this hour is fixed more strongly, shaping how you think, decide, and act long after the morning has passed. Obedience in this moment quietly programs the direction of your future. What makes the first hour so powerful is not superstition or routine. It is the way the human mind was designed. The Bible reveals spiritual principles, and modern understanding confirms them. In the early moments of the day, your mind is more impressionable, more focused, and less defensive. It is like fresh cement. Whatever you pour into it will eventually harden and support the structure of your life. Most people never realize this mechanism is shaping their destiny daily, silently, without their consent. If the first input your mind receives is complaint, comparison, drama, or endless scrolling, you are not just passing time. You are training your identity. Over months and years, that training becomes visible as distraction, anxiety, poor financial decisions, and spiritual numbness. Scripture warns that what you set your mind on determines who you become. You do not drift into discipline, you drift into disorder. Discipline must be chosen intentionally. This explains why many believers feel spiritually stagnant even while staying busy. Activity without order produces exhaustion, not growth. The Bible consistently teaches that wisdom is cultivated, not absorbed accidentally. When you feed your mind wisdom, planning, learning, and the Word in its most receptive state, you are building internal systems that will guide decisions long after emotions fade. This is not motivation, it is construction. 5 years from now, no one will see the individual mornings that shaped your life. They will only see the results: stability or chaos, clarity or confusion, order or constant improvisation. The tragedy is that most people will attribute these outcomes to personality or circumstance, never realizing they were built by thousands of invisible choices made before sunrise. This hour may feel insignificant today. It may even feel uncomfortable. But biblical wisdom reveals that small, obedient decisions move great results. The future is not altered by massive events alone. It is redirected by quiet alignment repeated daily. And this mechanism never stops working. Whether you are intentional or not, something is being formed. Understanding the principle is not enough. Biblical wisdom always moves from revelation to action. The question is no longer why the first hour matters, but what you do with it. This is where many people fail, because they assume discipline must be complicated to be effective. Scripture teaches the opposite. Faithfulness in simple, intentional steps produces lasting transformation. The first step is water. After hours without hydration, your body is depleted. This is not trivial. The Bible consistently links physical stewardship with spiritual responsibility. As you drink, you acknowledge dependence. Jesus described himself as living water, reminding us that life, strength, and clarity begin with recognition of need. A steward who neglects the body will struggle to steward finances, relationships, and purpose. The second step is movement. You do not need extreme routines or exhaustion. You need activation. Stretching, walking, or light movement awakens the body and sharpens the mind. Scripture calls the body a temple. Neglecting it creates disorder that spills into every other area. A mind awakened by movement makes wiser financial, relational, and spiritual decisions throughout the day. The third step is focus. Write one goal, not a list, not a speech. One clear intention aligned with your values and faith. The Bible teaches that without vision, people drift. That goal might be organizing finances, eliminating debt, saving consistently, or honoring God with resources. One goal, written daily, builds accumulated discipline that slowly reshapes identity. The fourth step is learning. Scripture praises those who listen and grow in knowledge. Feed your mind content that strengthens wisdom, not distraction. The best hour of your day should never be invested in shallow entertainment. Wisdom always produces fruit, whether financial, spiritual, or relational. The fifth step is protection. This hour is sacred. No messages, no social media, no emails. It is your daily altar. It is where structure is built before chaos arrives. Guard it fiercely, because it is shaping decisions you have not made yet. The power of this discipline has little to do with productivity and everything to do with identity. The Bible is clear that character is not revealed in public moments, but in private ones. In front of people, everyone wants to appear responsible, disciplined, and faithful. But before God, in silence and solitude, who you truly are is exposed. That is where destiny begins to take shape. Each time you choose intention over comfort in the early hours, you are casting a vote for the person you are becoming. Even when you feel tired, uninterested, or unmotivated, your actions are shaping your future self. Scripture teaches that faith without obedience is empty. Prayers without alignment produce frustration. What God honors is consistency rooted in principle, not emotional intensity. This is why small acts of discipline carry such spiritual weight. They reveal whether you live by feelings or by truth. A believer governed by emotion is unstable. A believer governed by principle becomes trustworthy. Over time, this trustworthiness manifests as stability in finances, clarity in decisions, and peace in relationships. None of this happens suddenly. It emerges quietly through repetition. 5 years from now, you will not remember the mornings you wanted to quit, but you will live inside the person they created. That person will either be resilient, ordered, and focused, or reactive, stressed, and fragmented. The difference will not be traced to talent or opportunity, but to the unseen faithfulness practiced when no one applauded. This discipline does more than form habits. It forms a believer who understands that faith is not passivity, but cooperation with God's principles. You stop becoming the person who almost tries, who talks about change, who hopes for improvement without structure. You become the person who builds the life they constantly pray for. At some point, emotion must give way to reality. The Bible repeatedly invites us to count, to measure, and to understand consequences. When you do the math, the power of small daily discipline becomes undeniable. One intentional hour each day equals 365 hours in a single year. That is more than 2 full weeks of focused, uninterrupted growth, not fragmented, not rushed, not dependent on mood. Clean, directed time. Now extend that discipline over 5 years, thousands of hours invested in clarity, wisdom, planning, and spiritual alignment. While many people spend those same years consuming entertainment, arguing online, comparing themselves to others, and drifting deeper into debt, another group is quietly building. They are sowing discipline, order, and responsibility. Scripture promises that the harvest always comes. God is not mocked. Whatever a person sows, that they will reap. The frightening truth is that this gap grows invisibly at first. In the beginning, nothing seems different. Progress feels slow. Results are subtle. This is why most people quit. They confuse invisibility with ineffectiveness. But biblical wisdom teaches that roots grow before fruit appears. The disciplined life accumulates strength long before it shows success. 5 years later, the difference looks dramatic. One life feels stable, focused, and directed. The other feels rushed, overwhelmed, and constantly behind. Yet both paths were built by choices that once seemed insignificant. No single morning changed everything, but thousands of mornings decided everything. This is not about working harder. It is about working in alignment. Time invested with intention compounds. Time wasted compounds too. The question is not whether your time is shaping your future. It is what kind of future it is shaping. As uncomfortable as it may be, the Bible presents life as a series of choices, not mysteries. Within 5 years, there will be 2 very different versions of you waiting at the end of this road. One will live with clarity, order, and a sense of direction. The other will live with the familiar weight of confusion, stress, and the quiet question of why nothing ever changed. Both futures arrive on schedule. Only one is built intentionally. The disciplined person does not become perfect. They become stable. Their finances are not flawless, but they are ordered. Their faith is not theoretical, but practiced. Their days are not free of struggle, but guided by structure. The other future is marked by reaction. Days begin late and end exhausted. Decisions are made under pressure. Growth is always postponed. Scripture does not describe this as misfortune. It describes it as the result of unmanaged stewardship. What makes this contrast painful is that both individuals once shared the same intentions. Both wanted peace. Both prayed for provision. Both desired progress. But only one aligned daily behavior with biblical principle. The other hoped for change without responsibility. Over time, hope without discipline becomes disappointment. The Bible never shames this reality. It warns us because it offers a choice. You are not condemned to drift. You are invited to build. Yet that invitation demands honesty. You cannot ask God to bless a life you refuse to structure. You cannot pray for harvest while neglecting the seed. 5 years will pass. That is unavoidable. The question is whether you will arrive there with gratitude or regret, with order or chaos, with the quiet confidence of obedience or the heavy burden of excuses. Every real transformation reaches a moment where silence is no longer enough. Biblical change is not only internal, it is declared through action. Scripture shows that commitment strengthens when it is confessed, because what is spoken becomes accountable. This is why so many people remain trapped in cycles of intention. They decide privately, but never commit visibly. At this point, the question is no longer whether this principle works. The evidence is overwhelming. The question is whether you will act on it. Will you continue giving your best mental energy to distraction and your goals only what remains? Or will you reclaim responsibility for the hours God has entrusted to you? The Bible teaches that choosing discipline is choosing life. Avoiding it is choosing delay. This decision does not require perfection. It requires direction. You are not committing to never feel tired. You are committing to act despite it. When you set your alarm with intention, you are not performing a symbolic ritual. You are making a declaration. You are drawing a line between who you have been and who you are becoming. Scripture reminds us that obedience weighs more than countless prayers without action. Each morning you follow through. Even when no one notices, you reinforce a new identity. You stop being the person who almost changes and become the person who consistently builds. This is why public commitment matters. It anchors intention to reality. It transforms belief into behavior. And behavior, repeated daily, reshapes destiny. At its core, this message is not about waking up early. It is about stewardship, responsibility, and the kind of society we are quietly building through our daily choices. History repeatedly shows that nations, families, and institutions do not collapse overnight. They erode slowly when discipline is replaced by convenience and responsibility is postponed in favor of comfort. The Bible does not present this as punishment, but as consequence. What is neglected eventually breaks. Personal discipline is never purely personal. A disordered life creates financial strain, emotional instability, and social pressure that inevitably spills into families and communities. Conversely, a disciplined individual contributes stability, clarity, and responsibility to the world around them. This is why biblical wisdom always links personal obedience with collective well-being. Change begins internally, but its impact is never isolated. You were not given time merely to survive the days. You were entrusted with it to build something that outlives momentary comfort. Stewardship is an act of faith, but also an act of social responsibility. When you choose discipline over delay, you are not only shaping your future, you are breaking cycles that affect generations. 5 years from now, the world will not ask how you felt. It will reflect what you consistently did. Policies may change. Economies may rise and fall. Technology will evolve. But character remains the one asset that history proves cannot be replaced. The Bible teaches that wisdom leaves an inheritance, not just wealth, but stability, order, and direction. The time has already been given. The opportunity is already present. The decision is no longer theoretical. It is daily, practical, and unavoidable. Either time will shape you by default, or you will steward it with intention. Choose discipline. Choose responsibility. Choose to build quietly when no one is watching, so that one day the results speak louder than words.